But just so you understood, if I was on the left, I would be turned like that because I would be facing you.
What if
I turn like that and I'm on the right, I'm turning away from you. You've got my back. I've got my back to you. So I'm turning like this because I'm on the left.
This is how we should do it, like this right here.
346 minutes later.
I'm sorry, I'm on the right, aren't I?
You are correct. You are sitting.
I'm supposed to be on the right, yeah?
You're sitting pretty.
3 days later.
I would have washed my hair today if I'd have known.
I washed mine.
1 week later.
You are the world champion of doing the 1Route interviews.
Hi everyone, from 1Route, I'm Jeffrey Ross, and you're watching the 1Route Roundup, the show that spotlights individuals making a positive difference in the telecom industry. Today we're joined by Eric Prescons, currently the Chief Executive Officer at the Risk and Assurance Group, along with the editor of commsrisk.com. He has previously been the Director of Risk Management for Qatar Telecom, Head of Controls for Cable and Wireless, Best Practice Manager for Revenue Assurance Billing and Interconnect for T-Mobile, and has worked for other telcos such as Sky and WorldCom. Eric is also a qualified chartered accountant, holding degrees from the University of Liverpool in Information Systems, Mathematics, and Philosophy. A true advocate for keeping the telecom industry informed and accountable, passionate about bringing people together to solve issues in assurance and fraud, and has been known to literally run so much for charity that his shoes fall apart. Eric, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, Jeffrey. And I want to make it clear for anybody watching, I didn't know you were about to do that.
Yes.
That was a very, very, very glowing introduction. And I'm somewhat embarrassed now.
Spotlight on people making a positive difference.
The light is so bright, I'm blinded.
And to our audience, Eric did not know he was doing this until 2 minutes ago. So
I didn't know it was going to start like that either. I was going to be clear about that. Thank you. You're very generous. You're very kind.
Well, Eric, as I start all of these off with, where in the world are you today?
I'm in Aylesbury in Buckinghamshire. Lovely county, green county, near the Chiltern Hills, which I love to walk amongst so much here in England, the south of England.
That's good.
In my office, in my dingy little office, which I've got lots of bright lights on my face, so you can't see how old and wrinkled I am anymore.
Oh, you're looking good on this side.
Thank you.
I like it.
You look great too, but
well, that's just because I have a giant light spotlighting how bald I am.
Let's not go on about hair. Let's not go on about hair. This isn't hairdresser's corner. Okay, this is the roundup.
It's the roundup.
1Route Roundup. I love it.
Eric, what in the world got you into telecoms?
It's a really good question, and I'm going to give you a frank answer, Jeffrey. I'm not from, you would say, a well-to-do background. And one thing that was very exciting about the telecommunications industry in the 1990s, in which you had this explosion of new companies coming along, doing a lot of work, just completely new businesses. You know, I remember being an auditor at a business called Raycal. And because I was a little bit aware of what Raycal was up to, I was aware of this thing that they'd created called Vodafone at a time when very few people knew that there was this thing called Vodafone. So to be at that early stage of the development of this nascent industry, this mobile industry, but not just mobile, the internet industry too, it's really transformed our lives. It's a very exciting opportunity to get involved in that. And I wanted to get involved because I thought this is a fantastic opportunity to do things, get exposure to opportunities, to have a chance to progress in life, and to be involved in something that's going to just grow enormously. And where, because people are doing things that are completely new, there is no established way of doing things. There's no pecking order. There's no old boys club or anything like that going on.
Right.
It's completely free. So in that sense, you have all these young people, different people from different backgrounds, and just much more opportunity to achieve and do things in life. And it's been like that, you know, for my whole career. I mean, obviously, the telecoms industry has had phases of growth. It's had phases where it's retrenched a little bit, but nevertheless, as an industry, it still provides opportunities that other industries don't provide to many kinds of people from different backgrounds. I think that's one of the strengths of it, and that's why I got involved.
So it's really a good, it's a good place to start with a blank slate or an even playing ground, no matter what you're born into, for lack of a better word.
It's not about there's a kind of established, nepotism, somebody's son, the grandson, whatever, the old family connections, whatever. For me, it was a lot of people who were just completely new to a field of problems, solving those problems as they were going along. And that's great if you're like me, believe in meritocracy. That the people who do the best work, the people who work hardest should receive the rewards. And telecoms industry has been a lot better than a lot of other industries. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than a lot of other industries in that regard. And I think in that sense, we should be proud of that in telecoms.
So I am curious. So did you purposefully seek out telecoms? With that being, all that being said, did you purposefully seek it out?
I studied to be a chartered accountant with Deloitte's Big Four accounting firm, and but I'd come from an information technology background. I had a master's degree in information systems. So I'd always been interested in the prospect of managing risk, of understanding what goes wrong with IT systems. And, there's multiple business sectors, of course, that use technology. It's not just telecoms, but the reason I ended up becoming focused on telecoms a few years after I started training with Deloitte was because of this explosion in terms of the launch of new mobile operators, the creation of ISPs, this enormous amount of energy and excitement around the liberalization of the telecoms market that was taking place at that point in time. So that's why I took my skills in that specifically for this business sector.
Well, we're glad you did. I have to tell you, and to our audience, so on your comms risk, you've been publishing each year an article of the unsung heroes, which spotlights individuals that might not always get the acknowledgement they deserve, which is basically where I got the idea. It's a form of flattering you by saying, I love the idea of the unsung heroes that you publish each year. And that's what we really want to do, is continue to spotlight individuals that are making a difference. So what was it that really spurred you to start doing that article each year?
Partly, I'm very flattered that you noticed it, because for me, it was an opportunity to perhaps surprise a few people at the end of the year, because they may be our regular readers, they're part of the community of professionals, and those people read comms risk. It was a way for me to almost catch people by surprise and say, you may not have, I may not have thanked you enough during the year, maybe other people haven't thanked you enough during the year, but they log on, because it tends to be published around Christmas time. They'll log on somewhere between Christmas and New Year's, they'll check up on comms risk, and hey, people did notice what you were doing during the year. That was my way of trying to give people a little bit of a late Christmas present, in case they'd thought that they'd worked very hard that year and nobody had noticed what they were doing. So that was my thought process, is just to give people some thanks. And awards, I mean, I don't want to be negative. The positive was to give people a present and a recognition. And just for myself, I run this site, I can spend some time typing away my opinions. I often give my opinions on what I think is wrong in the world. Sometimes you should say what's right in the world, what people are doing well, as well as what's wrong in the world.
I think you're right, though.
On the negative side, awards don't tend to be given to people because they're good people and they do the right thing. Awards tend to be given because it's marketing. And the people who receive awards are businesses, and they basically pay money towards companies who then maybe have a long list or a short list or whatever, and there's a judging panel. But in the end, the reason why the reason why Hollywood actors get so many awards is because Hollywood spends a lot of money on marketing Hollywood films. So you have to hand out lots of awards, and industries also hand out awards to market themselves. And I think sometimes we should have awards just genuinely for people who just did a good job, and not because they're selling anything. And especially people who are just doing their job, are being paid to do a job, and therefore there's no overt marketplace to sell them. It is appropriate sometimes to say, thank you. You didn't just do your job, You did your job very well. You went above and beyond what's required for your job. You're an example for how people should approach the things that we're doing. So we tend to use these phrases about working very hard and working together and striving for the best for our customers. But unless you pick examples of people like that, those are just pretty empty words. It's really important to actually pick out examples and say, and I'm not, it's not like an authoritative survey. So it's just the people that I've come across who have impressed me during the course of the year. But nevertheless, I think it's nice. It's nice just to sometimes be positive and say, this guy's not going to win an award normally, but did a great job this year, deserves a pat on the back. That was the whole thought process.
Well, it's adding that positive light into the industry. And yeah, everybody wants to know that they're deep down. We want to know that the work we're doing means something to someone. And absolutely. But now,
and I spend every other day of the year bitching and moaning and complaining about what a terrible job everybody does. So I think for one day in a year, I can say some nice things about what a great job some people do.
That's right. Speaking of the unsung heroes, one thing that we're talking about is perspective. And through your experience, is there an area of the world that you have found to be more advanced in the fight against fraud than others that people might not necessarily know about or give credit to?
It's actually quite a difficult question to answer, because when it comes to dealing with a challenge, you can only deal with the challenges that are presented to you. So if you're not faced with the challenge, you can't overcome the challenge. And the challenges that different people face, different businesses face, they vary from place to place. So let's be clear about that. So you can't just say, here is the world leader and these guys are behind or whatever,
world champion,
because they're confronted with different problems. So it's very difficult. You're not comparing like with like. That said, though, and I think I've said this a number of times in the past, so I'm being pretty consistent here. That said, though, I think in terms of people that I want to learn from, there are many more African professionals that I want to learn from than are given credit as being people who should be put on the platform as tutors for the rest of the industry. And I think there is an imbalance there, in the sense that because of the experiences these professionals have had, because of the challenges they faced, but not just the challenges they faced, the ingenuity, the resourcefulness they show in how they overcome those challenges. There are, and I don't want to name names, because if I start naming them, I'll know, because I wasn't prepared for this.
You'll leave someone out.
I'll know I'll miss a few, so I don't want to do that. But that's the point, is that there is a good number of African professionals, and I think you'd say all of them deserve to be put on more of a platform, more of a pedestal, so that other parts of the world can learn from it. And that's no disrespect to the great work being done in South America or Asia or any other part of the world. Not meaning any disrespect to any other work, but in terms of pure rebalancing where we get our information from, I would love to see a lot more information come out of Africa, rather than perhaps the stereotype, which is that Africans receive information from experts elsewhere in the world. Because actually, no, in many cases now they are the experts. And there's very straightforward reasons for why that's starting to become the case. Because if I want to know somebody who's going to be, say, an expert on fraud related to mobile money, I'm probably going to go to someone like Kenya, because of their exposure, their experience, or maybe somewhere like Tanzania or somewhere like that, because the exposure, because the experience. And therefore, I want to hear about how they've tackled the problem, hear about the problems they faced. But also, we should, again, a bit like the unsung heroes, be identifying who's been very resourceful, who's been very ingenious in the way they tackle these problems, and learn from their example, rather than reinventing the wheel in every part of the world.
And Africa does a phenomenal job. You know, I look at Mozambique, and again, not to discredit other countries in Africa, but just knowing the network that they have over in Mozambique of how to get connectivity across the country in rural areas. And I think about here in the States, I mean, there's parts of Texas that you don't have any connectivity, much less 5G or 4G. I mean, zero connectivity. And I agree, you know, there's things to be learned from what others are doing in other parts of the world. So that's fantastic.
I think there's people that we can learn from in every country, on every continent.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, let's not suggest that there's a better place or a worse place. But as I say, I think we should rebalance our expectations, because hey, sometimes it's a bit too much of guys like who look like you and me, who are always getting to be in front of an audience,
sure,
telling what we know, saying this is our opinion. And I think we should be seeing a wider variety of people get the opportunity. And I would certainly encourage that. And that's partly what I've been trying to do with things like comms risk and the risk and insurance group over the years too, is encourage that as much as possible.
You're doing a good job at it. So now, speaking of perspective again, through your experiences, can you give us some perspective of fraud from other countries' points of view? You know, are we, as an industry, are we all fighting the same type of fraud and we should all use one method of fighting it? Or with some perspective, is there other types of fraud that maybe, like here in the States, we don't deal with SIM boxes as much as they do in other parts of the world? But from your perspective, is there a common type of fraud that we all see?
I'm finding that question quite hard to answer, so I'll try and break it down a little bit.
And I get
fraud
that.
Fraud is about an opportunity. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
A fraudster is a criminal who sees an opportunity, and takes advantage of the opportunity. Now, do they discriminate? Do they say the opportunity exists in one country, the same opportunity exists in a different country? Well, I'm only going to pick on people in one country. They have no reason to discriminate. If they can implement their scheme globally, and telecoms lends itself to being implemented globally, any
Right.
kind of fraud scheme. Not every kind of fraud scheme is globally, but if it can be implemented in other places, they'll just go where they can make the most money. So in that sense, fraud, the fundamentals of fraud are always universal, because if you create the opportunity or you allow the creation of an opportunity that a criminal can exploit, why wouldn't the criminal exploit it? They're not moral people. They want to make money. So it's all about how much money they can make and how much it costs them to make that money, and ease and deterrence. Okay. So, you know, to start breaking down why you get regional variations, one thing I think that's going wrong in your country, Jeffrey, United States, America, or one thing that I could, even if I say it's wrong, I could still challenge and say, here's a difference, is I like the fact that in China, there are various kinds of telecoms fraudsters, and law enforcement in China is extremely proactive in going out, getting them and putting them in prison, which is not the case in the United States of America.
Right.
So then you could say, well, you know, it's not as if the China doesn't have the same fraud as you're having in the United States of America. The fraudsters are still doing it, and fraudsters will still take risk, and they'll even risk being put in prison. But you're probably going to get a lot more of that kind of fraud in the United States of America if literally nobody's ever imprisoned, if there's a big press release that says multi-million-dollar fine, but in reality, no assets are ever confiscated because the legal system is just not effective at ever enforcing a penalty like that. So there's the dynamic around whether it's possible to commit fraud, and that may relate to things like, you know, tax rules as well, you know, in telecoms industry, or prices. You know, if there's a very high termination price in the country, it lends itself to certain kinds of fraud. If the termination price is very low, well, you can still do the same thing, but you're just going to make a lot less money. So, you know, the variables about how fraud is spread and where frauds are profitable, that will be affected by the circumstances of the technology that's available, the way that human beings behave, to some extent whether customers are aware of certain kinds of frauds and they can be trained against it, technology, all those things play a part in it. But also, you know, deterrent effects, law enforcement, actually going after criminals, this also makes an effect too. So I think what I want to say though is, I've come to this from two different points. I've almost come to the conclusion and said, I don't want to say it's all the same everywhere. It's clearly not. And there'll be parts of the world, as you mentioned, say SIM box fraud, quite often associated with African countries.
It's like the fraudsters do a risk assessment as well. It's
absolutely.
It's I bet do the fraudsters have a chief risk officer in their little scheme?
I think they're brilliant at managing risk. I think fraudsters are brilliant at managing risk. Because they're conscious of their business is illegal, so they're very conscious of risk. They're conscious that their business could be closed down. They're conscious of being punished or whatever, but they'll gravitate towards places where they can thrive, where it won't be interrupted what they're doing, and where even if they're caught, they can just shut down temporarily and come back with a new front organization or whatever. Right. So the fundamentals of fraud, the fact that there's a certain proportion of human society that's prepared to engage in illegal behavior, that's universal. Right. And that's because human nature, human beings, we're the same wherever we are anywhere on the planet, no matter what we look like, no matter where we're born to. When you're poor and when you're in need, you're driven to do certain things you might not be otherwise driven to do, but there's greedy people everywhere on the planet. There's rule breakers everywhere on the planet. So it's about the environment we create and how much we allow fraud to take place by basically tolerating fraud. And that's really what determines how much fraud there is how much we tolerate fraud. That's
a really good way of putting it. I like that. Thank you. So we've been talking about collaboration, and we really brought it up at the RAG New Orleans event, a call to collaborate. And we're talking about this earlier, but working together, whether it's vendors and vendors or telcos and telcos, countries and countries. Have you seen in recent times some good collaboration that has started, or do you think there's always room for improvement? I get that answer, but do you see good collaboration occurring, or are there areas, let's say country to country, where?
Well, you're going to make me seem immodest, because obviously I want to talk about things that I'm involved in. You've given me that glowing introduction, and now I'm going to say, oh yeah, we do this great work at RAG, that
there you go.
The fraud blockchain. I don't want to say that because that sounds fabricated now. Though obviously I am pleased about the number of telcos that are exchanging intelligence using our fraud blockchain, for example, which is wonderful to see. In fact, we're talking to some people earlier today from a very big mobile operator group, and we'll be talking to another big mobile operator group tomorrow about the extent to which they're going to introduce more of their data. So this is a great example of collaboration, just exchanging information. At the same time, it's always sweet and sour. There's always positive, negatives, so I'm afraid whenever I give an answer. So there are some things that are very good. There's too much cynicism in terms of companies not wanting to take what they perceive as a risk by helping others to fight crime. I think that's, this is the equivalent of being a bad neighbor or or failing to be a good Samaritan. If you actually want to live in a good, healthy society where people behave honestly and you fight corruption, then as a business person, you need to do things that are not purely for profit. You have to do things in order to curb crime in society. Right. And that may involve the risk that you give information away and it's not used the best way it might be done, or maybe even some guy wants to push back on you. But we need to set norms and expectations, which aren't always about just protecting ourselves as individuals, protecting ourselves as a company. We need to set norms and expectations where we, as an industry, where we together collectively set expectations for how we're going to tackle crime. And if we work together and we're open and honest about that, the majority of society will be on our side. Absolutely. And we'll overcome those sections of society who want to profit by keeping us separate, who want to profit by isolating businesses and stopping them working. So sometimes I could be a bit cynical about the word collaboration, because going back to the analogy of the Hollywood lovelies, it's very easy to get in front of a camera or get in front of a microphone and just go collaborate. We all love each other, yada, yada. And then, in the real world, we're all loving each other. Then Will Smith comes up on stage, smacks some guy in the face. It's not all happiness and peace and loving each other in reality. We have some conflict. We have some problems we need to work through. What are we really doing specifically to tackle problems? So I'm glad that you gave me the question, and I'm in the end, I gave you a specific answer that relates to something that I'm involved in, but I'm in favor of any specific answer as to how telcos, how businesses, how business people work together to solve the problems. And there's a number of examples. That 1Route is a great example of that. Your business partners, AB Handshake Corporation, is a great example of that. The work that Colin Yates does, where he's pulling together data and sharing with telcos around the world too. There's some good work that comes out of the GSMA. I don't agree with everything the GSMA does in the fraud space, but there's some very good work from us like that. And again, now I feel bad because I'm sure there's 3 or 4 other examples that if you told me about that question before I come on, I would have been prepared. So there are some good specific answers. But the point is, let's focus on the specifics. What are people specifically doing to genuinely help each other tackle these problems?
Yes.
And not just
marketing
something that you're going to sell.
You see cross industry collaboration, banking and telcos working together in I know this has occurred in some countries with the authentication over SMS, or SIM swap, but you start to see cross industry collaboration. I mean, I used this the other day, the collaboration of countries working together to put people over in the International Space Station, or, I hear you. And I think there's a lot of good that comes out of collaborating, but definitely.
And look, collaboration doesn't always have to be enormously expensive too, because now you remind me of a great example. And again, we should give credit where credit's due.
Absolutely.
SIM swaps, the development of APIs where a phone company is saying in their API, hey there, world, this SIM has recently been replaced.
Right.
It's very cheap. Mm-hmm. This is not technologically onerous. This is not shattering anyone's budget to put this in place. But it's a form of collaboration, because although there's no one paying you to do that, there's no enormous reward for you putting the API in. It means it reestablishes trust in what you're doing, and you're sending the signal to a bunch of other businesses like banks who can go, okay, I'm going to check that API. So when somebody's going to make a big withdrawal, I can go, hello, that SIM got replaced a few hours ago. I'm just going to delay.
Yeah, hold on.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to stop things. You're just taking a common sense procedure to protect the customer. That's all. Makes perfect sense. And that's a simple form of collaboration. And again, credit where credit's due. I think the shame about that collaboration, which has been wonderful, is that quite a lot of countries have come along and said, we're doing a great job. We put in these APIs. And we haven't always remembered which countries that did it first, where we've been copying the idea from, which has basically been African countries. So credit where credit's due. We should be saying, that was a good idea. That's made the world a better place. But also, congratulations to these people over in this company or in this country.
Yeah.
We're following their example. We should do that too, because that's also a form of reward that encourages better behavior in the future.
I like it. So Eric, one last thing. I think you may or may disagree, but in our day-to-day lives or in business, as we go to conferences, as we go to meetings, and as we talk to people, maybe in 10-minute snippets here and there, you don't really get to know who somebody is. And what we're wanting to do with this spotlight on Eric Prescons is get the audience to know who you really are. So the great scientist for the Late Show with Stephen Colbert came up with a questionnaire. And by the end of the questionnaire, you should be known to the audience. Now, our scientists at the 1Route Labs have tweaked it just a little bit, but it's 15 questions. And by the end, our audience will know who Eric Prescons is. Are you ready to take this questionnaire?
The answer to your first question is no.
Fair enough.
Does that mean I get to skip the rest of the questions, or are you still going to give them to me anyway?
I guess maybe I should have said there's 16 questions. The first one is, are you ready? Oh, Eric, here we go.
Well, the ancient Greeks said know thyself. So let's see if I know myself.
Let's see how well you know yourself. Eric, what is the best sandwich?
Ham and cheese with pickle.
Dill pickle or sweet?
Branston pickle.
I like it. What is one thing that you own that you should really throw out?
I can't answer that because it's probably the other way around. what things do I have that I actually want to keep? Probably almost everything is going to get thrown out.
Did you
I'm
get
moving
rid of,
house soon.
you
and I'm
did
gonna
you
throw
did get
everything
rid
out.
of you threw out the pair of shoes that you ran literally ran out of, right?
Hey, if anything, those shoes should have gone in a case somewhere. Because
they should
they
be.
gave me many years of good service before they fell to bits. So I was that felt unkind to the shoes for so many years of service to then just throw them in the bin. So that got roughly done. But
I
there's
hear
lots
you.
of other things in my life that are about to get junked as I move home. I'm going to probably like move to my new house with like one single bin bag of the actual things I want and use and to start.
Just a toothbrush.
No, I'll change even the toothbrush.
What
You
is
have to change the toothbrush on a regular basis.
what is the scariest animal?
Human beings.
There you go. Woo. Apples or oranges?
Both.
Now you can only pick one.
Then we're going to get into a fight because I'm going to have one of each. You're not going to stop me. I want a nice, balanced, healthy selection of fruit in my fruit.
That's fair.
I'm disappointed there was no bananas.
That's fair. No bananas.
Banana a day. You
Yeah.
need a banana to start your day every day. Lots of potassium.
The correct answer is apples. But you know why, right?
No, I do not know. Why is apples?
Because you can put peanut butter on an apple.
Okay. I think it's best that I don't comment. I like peanut butter on many things, but I am never.
Have you ever asked somebody for their autograph?
No, I don't think I ever have. No. I'm not that kind of person.
No, well, that's okay.
If other people want autographs, that's fine by them, fine by me. I just don't want people's autograph. If you do a good song, if you do perform well in the film, whatever, I appreciate what you did. What does it matter how you sign your name? I don't care about that.
I'll give you mine, just so you have one.
Okay. On the big check. That's my fee for appearing on this, yeah.
What is your favorite action movie?
Con Air.
Con Air.
Superb film. Nicolas Cage, John Malkovich, John Cusack.
Yeah.
Those guys were amazing job they did in that film.
This is not part of the questionnaire, but I'm just curious now. So I tend to like Guy Ritchie movies. I don't know if you could call them action films, but they have some action in there. And I like dialects and accents around the world. Does Guy Ritchie do a good job? You know, Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, The Gentleman, and a lot more. Does he do a good job of showing the world different dialect or different accents, British accents?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't at all.
No, that's good.
So I lived in London for 10 years. And yeah, there's a London accent, there's a Cockney accent. But the reality of London is it's such a cosmopolitan city that you wouldn't have the uniformity of accents that you get in Guy Ritchie's Cockney gangster films. Yeah. It's too uniform. It's like a stereotype of what a Londoner is that may have been drawn on some truth from 40 or 50 years ago, but doesn't represent the period of time in which he's making his films. And that's not to say that he's not great at making money and making good films, and he knows what audiences want to see, but it's not a true reflection of modern day London.
That's good. So to us here in the States, that's what I was wanting to know, just out of curiosity. But we'll move
London
on.
is one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. So if you actually were doing something that represented modern London, it would be such a diversity of accents, religions, ethnic origins, whatever, people from all over the world. So the point is you can't do that and say this is from this place. It's just going to look like a whole melting pot of different things, and therefore that would be difficult to do as a filmmaker, because as a filmmaker you just,
especially if you got some guy from Texas walking around London that day. But
no, we don't let anyone from Texas in there. That's the one accent we don't allow. Whenever you guys come along and ask for directions to Leicester Square or something like that, we just basically make you get onto a bus and you go to like a whole different city where we don't have to deal with you anymore.
I like it. What is your favorite smell?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer. Favorite smell?
Yeah.
Wow, I wasn't ready for that one. I have some incense sticks kicking around the house. I'm trying to wonder what would be the favorite one. Sandalwood. Sandalwood.
Yeah. What is your least favorite smell?
Rotting garbage. I don't think that's not a hard one. There's only, yeah, I mean,
What
is this really from the Colbert questionnaire?
most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, most of them.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rotting garbage, I think, is up there.
What was the first cell phone you owned?
So I forget the name of it, but 1-to-1, one of the 4 original mobile networks in the UK, they had an all-in-one package where you would go into the store and you would buy a big box, big wide box that would have the phone, the handset, 2 batteries, a slimline one, which is like way thicker than any actual phone you can get today, and then the extra lifelong duration one, which is basically the battery alone was the size of a house brick. Okay, and you would stick that on the back of the phone, and the cost of buying this box was your first year's rental included as well, and that was my first. I forget the name of the actual phone, but I loved the fact that I just went into a store and said, today I'm going to have a mobile phone, and I've still got the same phone number as I got when I bought that phone. That's
great. Flat or sparkling?
For water.
Water.
Yeah, still, obviously. Why waste energy on carbonating water? We're trying to reduce carbon in the climate, aren't we? I don't understand why we're putting carbon into our water. We're trying to take it out of everything else. It doesn't make any sense to me. Greta Thunberg, we should have her on the show and ask her about still and sparkling water.
Let's do it. You make that.
I don't know her. I mean,
oh, okay. Well, I was about to say,
I wasn't offering her to bring her on the show.
Coffee or tea?
Always was a coffee drinker rather than a tea drinker, but as I get older, I'm starting to understand that there are some pleasures to tea.
Yeah.
But Smooth Silencer from
Black Rifle Coffee.
Black Rifle Coffee Company.
It's pretty
the
good.
Best coffee in the world.
It's pretty good. What is the best? What is the most used app on your phone?
I have to get my phone out now to have a look and see what I use. Well, actually, because I'm being a bit stupid when I say that, because there are 3 apps that are always running on my phone. They are email, because I always want to have email, WhatsApp, because I'm always, WhatsApping people, and Discord, because I use Discord a lot to communicate with people. So basically, it's the apps for communicating.
It's communication on a phone. It's a
crazy idea.
It's a crazy idea. All right, Eric, you get one song to listen to for the rest of your life, and only one. What would it be?
Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto Number 2.
Number 2.
Yeah, you think that's the vulgar one? You think number 3 is the better one? Yeah,
no.
You're looking down your nose at me because I've got like common vulgar.
I like the rock.
In my,
I like the rock 3. It's good. I like C sharp. What is it? Rachmaninoff in C sharp minor. It's a really good one. We'll go.
I also picked Rachmaninoff because if it was like a 3-minute pop song, it'd be pretty boring playing that over and over again. Whereas at least if I've got Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto Number 2, it'll last a while, so I won't get quite so bored of listening to it over and over again. But yeah, I could always listen to that.
I love it. What number am I thinking of?
7, because everyone says 7.
No. Good try. Good try. I do actually have a number in my mind that I'm asking everybody just to see if anyone can guess it.
Okay, but if it hadn't been about you, if it had been people watching this online,
yeah, I would have said
80% would have been thinking 7, and they would have been blown away.
Well, most people have been saying 7 so far, but
I'm telling you, I know my psychology here. 7. That's the answer people give.
You describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
Indescribable and 4 other words.
Eric Prescons, you are now known to whoever's watching this interview. You're a known man. All that's left to do is roll out the red carpet for you, my friend. Look into the camera and tell us what's on the horizon for you.
The horizon for me is the top of my computer, just here above the camera. And there is nothing beyond that for the foreseeable future. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jeffrey, in
Eric,
this ridiculous interview.
I greatly appreciate it. Always appreciate your time. Love talking with you. To our audience, make sure to like, subscribe, whatever you do on social media.
Thumbs down. This was a thumbs down. I think.
Make sure to
Boom.
share. Definitely
Wrong
share this one.
answers.
Make sure to share this one with everybody you know. Subscribe, tweet, whatever you do. Follow us so you can make sure to not miss out on the next go round. Until then, we'll see you later. Eric,
you didn't let me interrupt you at all as you're doing your signing off. You've ruined it now for me. Where's the anarchy at the end?
It's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm not letting you finish now. You're not allowed to switch off yet. You're not allowed to just press the button and stop playing this video. There's no edit point here. I'm just going to keep on talking for another half hour.
It's one of those background noise, white noise videos that last for 12 hours.
Just put us on a loop wherever you're doing in the work, and whatever you're doing in work, however bad life seems to be, however much trouble you're having with your boss. It could be worse. You could be dealing with me and Jeffrey every day.
I love it. I'm stopping the recording now.